My name is Diane McGuire. I'm with the Kids Mental Health Foundation, and I'm joined by pediatric psychologists, Dr. Ariana and Dr. Whitney. So just to let you know, we are going to be recording today's session. We are going to save time for Q&A at the end, so look for a Q&A button to appear at the bottom of your screen. And while we welcome your questions, I do just want to let you know that we can't give specific advice. Every child is different, and our experts will give general recommendations that you may want to customize. There are going to be some interactive elements today, like we already started by doing some chatting. We're also going to have some poll questions because we really want to hear from you throughout. And then at the end, I just want to give you a heads up that there is going to be a survey, and we would really appreciate it if you would take just a minute or two to fill that survey out and give us your honest feedback. That's going to help us make webinars even better in the future. You should have gotten a PDF toolkit via email when you registered. If you don't have that, Katie has posted a link to that in the chat. So please go ahead and download that if you don't mind. It's going to help you follow along and also give you things that you can take action on once this webinar is complete. So the downloads are meant to be helpful for all children, but we do recognize that with learning differences and other conditions, not every download may be as helpful for everyone, so pick and choose the ones that are going to work best for your family. If this is your first time joining us, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Kids Mental Health Foundation. We were created by Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. We're a national organization, and we are all about providing resources to help all grown-ups understand, address, and promote the mental health of kids before a crisis or concern. Our organization is led by two amazing pediatric psychologists who are going to guide our learning today, Dr. Whitney Ragland-Bignall and Dr. Ariana Howitt. And before I turn it over to them, I just want to take one moment to thank our very generous corporate collective members who've made this webinar possible through their generous philanthropic support. So thank you all. We really appreciate you joining us and supporting us. And before I turn it over to Dr. Whitney and Dr. Ariana, I just also want to go over what we're going to cover today. So we are going to start with how the back to school season comes with lots of different feelings. You might be feeling that. I'm certainly feeling that in my house for both parents and kids. Then we're going to go over some steps that will help you handle the transition of going back to school in a mentally healthy way. And we'll finish with 5 tools that will build a foundation for school success that your child can use throughout the school year. And we really hope you'll come away from our time with steps to reduce stress and set your child up for success throughout this school year. So let's just start out. Dr. Ariana, you mentioned to me there's all these emotions that come with going back to school, and that's certainly what I've seen in my house. I've had kids who were excited to go back because they wanted to see their friends, and I've had kids who were very nervous and feeling like they were already behind on their academics before school even started. And sometimes both of those came from the same kid. So is that normal? Why does that happen?
Yeah, it's totally normal because back to school is a time of change, and change is disruption. It means adjusting. And so it means strong feelings, and the feelings can vary by child. They can be all in one child, as you mentioned. And also, I really want to point out that it's a time of stress for the parents. We're going into first grade next week. And I mean, it is incredible the amount of messaging I am getting. I'm getting messages on the apps, sometimes multiple a day, messages to my email. Then there's the events that we have to attend. All the after school programs have already started. So it's a lot. And if you joined us in our May webinar, we talked about how parent stress can then spill over to kids. And so everyone is just feeling high emotions in this time of transition.
Well, that leads us to our very first poll question. What feelings are you noticing in your home right now? And since we realized you could have multiple ones, you can select more than just one. And these could be your emotions or your children. So go ahead if you don't mind. and select the feelings that apply to you right now. I'm going to be very interested to see everyone's responses. I definitely know for me and my family, I feel like it's probably all of them, but yeah, okay. So we've got them across the board. I love that. So everything from all of the emotions was the most popular, but there was certainly lots of excitement, which is wonderful. And stressed is just right there with it. So excitement and stress, I think that's very relatable.
And
And I
someone
know,
in the chat said their child felt disappointed that the summer's over. So that's a good call out.
oh, that is another great emotion. Appreciate that addition. That is a good call out. Well, we're going to walk through 4 steps you can take now to help manage back to school time. And they are checking in with your child, getting back into school year routines. Sorry, I double clicked there, getting organized and reviewing expectations, and then connecting with the school. Dr. Whitney, I know you mentioned something that's not on here, but is important, is taking a moment to think about your own thoughts and stress. Why is that so important?
It matters because we really want to think about our stress because, you know, it does impact our kids if we don't learn how to manage it. And when we are able to take a step back and get in control of them, then we're able to apply our checking in and all these other steps in a more healthier, helpful way for our kids. So as Dr. Ariana mentioned, we did do a whole webinar on parental stress in May, and we will be able to post in the link a chat where you can find resources if you're feeling particularly stressed. But it is important for us to check in first before we then check in with our kids.
All right, Dr. Ariana, will you walk us through step 1, checking in with your child?
Absolutely. So, with step one, what I want everyone to think about is that every child is different. And so, you guys still hear me? Okay. Every child is different. So, the idea with step one is simply to have the conversation with your child. And I want you to think about in this step, you're not problem solving yet, you're not making changes yet. Your goal is to listen and understand. And so we have these open ended questions. These were created very purposeful by therapists who have the tools to get kids talking. They're created so you're not getting yes, no, those one word answers. And so you will have them in your toolkit. You have more ideas to get that conversation going. And another important thing to think about in this check in, and we really want to call out, is the kids that are transitioning to a new building. So think about kindergartners, middle schoolers, high schoolers. They may be feeling extra nerves or anxious about the start of the school year because it's a lot of new things. And so again, this is the time to check in with them and see just what's going on in their mind.
I can remember my daughter being so nervous about having a different teacher one year, even though she met her at drop-in day and she liked her. But she
Mhm.
was just really worried about how the different school year was going to be with a teacher she didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brand new adult they're going to be spending a lot of time with. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that she was feeling that way. And again, the importance of checking in these conversations is that every child is going to have different worries. You have the one that's worried about the teacher, you have the child that's worried about homework, friends, who am I going to sit with at lunch? And so that's where I say, like, you really just want to listen and understand at this stage.
All right. What about when a child is going back to the same school that they've been to before, but they just have been struggling? The nation's report card has shown high school students are declining in math and reading scores. Eighth grade science scores hit historic lows. Is that part of why students are feeling so nervous, Dr. Whitney?
For some, school can be really tough, or last year was tough. And it's important to reassure your child that you're going to face this coming school year together as a team, and then work together to figure out what to do to help this year go better. And you can try this by first reflecting back on last year. What made it challenging? Was it friend group issues, one particular subject like math or English? Were they struggling with any uh, particular like other social difficulties or things like that? But we want to make sure no matter what that we have these conversations. And to do that, we have some conversation starters that we can put in the link for you to have those conversations. But overall, the key is to talk through what was hard last year so that you both can focus on what you can do to counteract those things this year. For example, so if it was hard for them to find time to study, it might be looking to create a study schedule. Or there was a subject that was really hard for them and you need or they need extra support, it might be getting a tutor or talking to this year's teacher in advance to get support. But lastly, I think it's equally important to find things outside of school that they are good at and really enjoy, because this can also help to really build their confidence.
That's helpful. Thanks for making step one simple. I'm going to try some of these conversation starters with my teen daughter. What's step two, Dr. Ariana?
So it's all about getting back into the routines. I mentioned the change, right? That this is a change. And so this means even starting before the first day of school, especially for those kids like the teens whose sleep schedule is way off during the summer. You may need to be moving things like 15 minutes a day. And then the idea is to start practicing. The more a child practices something, the more confident they feel, the less stress they feel. So review the expected schedule for the year, the new routines. Practice walking to the bus stop together for those that may be new. For those middle schoolers, if you have the schedule ahead of time, it means walking from class to class so they're not nervous about getting lost. It means opening that locker together. So it's all about that practice and getting them ready for that big transition.
Okay, so step two is getting back into school year routines gradually if you can and practicing those new experiences like walking to the bus stop or opening a locker. Dr. Whitney, step three is getting organized and reviewing expectations. How does that help kids?
Yes, when kids know what to expect, they feel more secure and safe. And so we want to work with your kids to find a space in your home where they can study and do schoolwork. This can be a desk, but it doesn't have to be. It could also be a kitchen table, or it could also be the library if you don't have a space at your house. But another thing is making sure they know and you know where to put school papers. This can really help them know where to find things such as permission slips, or if you get a newsletter from the school or homework. It's just helpful to know where to put them. And if possible, it's really helpful to have a school calendar visible so that everybody knows where the testing days are, school holidays, and other events. And another really big important thing to prepare for is making sure everyone is clear about the rules and expectations. Understanding what your family values. So, for instance, is homework more important than chores? If they have a part time job, how many hours do you expect them to work during the school year? Do they need to get their homework and studying done before they have screen time? When you all know what the rules and expectations are, you can really reduce the amount of conflict around those types of things by talking about it in advance. And also, one really important thing that can be helpful, especially if your kids go between different houses or they live or there's co-parenting happening, it can be really helpful to share your rules and expectations with the other family, because they might not have the same rules and expectations as you, but knowing the structures that you have put in place can really help everyone be on the same page. But no matter what your rules or expectations are, you really want to make sure your kids already know that, hey, if I'm having difficulty or a challenge, I know who to go to ask for help. So you, no matter what that problem may be, so if it's friendship drama or homework on a specific subject, they know who to talk with.
Great. So step three is all about getting everyone on the same page and making sure that kids know where they can go for help. I love that. That seems really important. Dr. Ariana, I see step 4 is all about connecting with the schools. Why is that so important?
It is extremely important for a child's mental health. It's truly connection is the school connection is one of the most important factors because not only does it help with mental wellness, meaning it helps increase those positive emotions and mood, but it also protects kids from the stressors of the school year. So when a child feels connected, when they feel like they belong, like I am an important part of the school environment, I can be myself here, they're more likely to thrive, not just academically, but mentally, emotionally. And the great news about school connection is that the adults in their lives can increase connection and belonging. So we want to show children that school is important to us, right? And we do that by knowing their teacher's name, knowing the staff, like the counselors, the principals' names, having ways to communicate, whether it's the apps, whether it's emails, whether it's those in teacher days, and then attending as much events as possible, encouraging kids to participate in clubs or those after school activities and events. So again, they feel like they're a part of that culture and community. And I want to acknowledge, like I'm saying, this is really, really important. We have this worksheet in your toolkit to help you start with those steps of how do I start connecting with the school? How do I start learning about that environment? But I want to acknowledge that that means another thing for you to do as a parent, and that can be a lot. Last year, when my daughter started kindergarten, I was like, I'm going to attend everything. I'm going to be the room parent. I'm going to be there. And it's just not doable as a working parent. I could not be at every event. And so my husband went, my mom went. And so the idea is that we're showing the children school matters and we're here for you and we're working as a team. We're all in this village together. So it doesn't have to be you alone. It's just someone being there for the child.
That's wonderful. If you need a reminder, all of these steps are outlined in the mental health checklist that is in your toolkit. Dr. Ariana, I think you've got a bonus tip for us.
Yeah, so this one is a fun one, and I truly want it to feel fun. I don't want to add another thing, another stressor. It's just about celebrating the end of summer, or in our home, we celebrate the start of the school year. And I promise it's as simple as my daughter loves that I put up a banner that's like, happy first day of school. That's it. She loves it. She loves to take the picture. Maybe as she gets older, she'll be like, oh, stop this. But right now, like she is already excited about what she calls decorating. It's truly just a banner on the wall. But for some, it may be we're going out for ice cream. It's whatever works for your family. It's just about giving them something that excites them and makes this transition positive.
Love the idea of a family celebration for the end of summer or the start of school. So let's crowdsource your ideas. Please post in the chat some ways that you like to celebrate as a family, and maybe we can all borrow from each other. I think we're going to do a movie night. That is something that my daughter still likes, is willing to do. She's a teenager, so she's still willing to see a movie with her parents. How about everybody else? Ooh, a summer trip to their favorite ice cream place. That is speaking my love language right there, Amanda. I can definitely get into ice cream. That's great. Oh, bowling, movie at home, theme park. Those are fun ideas. Beach trip. Wow.
Want that?
Yes, Felicity, that's a great idea. Pool party. Family dinner at a favorite restaurant. Outdoor adventures. That's very fun. I love that, Kayla. Oh, yeah. And bowling on a rainy day. That's brilliant. And a zoo. Yes. Dr. Whitney loves animals. She's going to definitely take you up on that zoo night, I think. These are great. I love all these ideas. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Back to school brownies.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, putt-putt golf. And how do you get a kid excited to go back to school who's homeschooled? I think you can use some of these ideas, Rachel. I think some of these are really fun. So that is great. Thank you for sharing your ideas. Feel free to keep posting them in the chat. We're going to move along to, I think I followed along with the 4 steps, but there's 5 skills. So I want to get into those, Dr. Ariana.
Yeah, so we're taking a little pivot here. We've talked about back to school transition and what you can be doing in this back to school time. But now we want to talk to you all about things that are going to be helpful all year long. And the reason we wanted to talk about this is, as a therapist, I often see kids, I often have kids that come to me, their parents bring them to me because the child is feeling high anxiety. But as we start to talk, I realize they may actually not need a therapist. They just need an adult to teach them the tools to succeed at school. It's that academic pressure that's causing this high anxiety. So we want to talk to you all today of what are some of the tools that you can be teaching kids that are going to make them feel confident, capable, and feel like, okay, that stress is going to decrease because they're going to feel like I can handle it. So we'll talk about routines, which we already did, but routines are so important. We'll talk about organization. We'll talk about setting goals for school and time management and study skills and reinforcement.
All right. So you did mention, we talked about routines earlier, but I feel like this one is a little bit different. So can you explain more about this, Dr. Whitney?
Sure. So before we were talking about adjusting bedtimes and wake up times, and now we really want you to think about those before and after school routines. For example, like what is hard for your kid about getting out of the house in the morning? Is it figuring out their breakfast, having lunch packed, knowing what to wear? But the same things about that after school routine. What may get in the way of them doing their homework or studying? So once you've thought about those things, we want you to work on setting up routines for those. Younger kids probably will need you to develop those routines and will benefit from like visual reminders, like a checklist or drawing of the steps they need to take. While older kids and teens probably have some of their own ideas. And so they might want to take more ownership in how they want to remember what to do, but they might still need some reminders from you as well. But it's really thinking about what are the steps they need to take before and after school that helps them to be successful.
I like this idea a lot, but how will I know if one of these new routines is actually working or if I need to change it?
Usually, I say like give it a week of trying before you make big changes, because whatever you choose for before or after school, you want to make sure your kids know what the expectations are, like we discussed earlier. So having clear routines can reduce conflict, and we have downloads that allow you to create those visual routines for younger kids and older kids. And we'll post a link in the chat if you're interested of seeing those.
Great. I'm a huge fan of reducing conflict. We definitely have had lots of conflict in my house over kids losing homework, leaving their band instrument at school, breaking their calculator because they put it in their back pocket and sat on it. I'm just, these are just a few examples I could name. So I'm very interested in this next skill of organization. Dr. Ariana, walk us through how can we help kids get more organized?
Yes, I laugh because that was me. That was me as a student. But organization is almost kind of the basic foundation of succeeding at school because everything you just described, right? If we're losing things, we can't succeed. We can't turn in assignments. And actually, again, in therapy, it happens all the time where the parents will come and they're so mad at the child because we did the homework at home, but then when I look at the app, it's showing up as not turned in, as not completed, and it's because the child is losing it, right? So we have to teach kids this skill. They're not born with it. And so with elementary school, it can be as simple as here's your folder. This is where you put all the papers and where you put things back, right? And for parents at the elementary age, I can tell you my mistake last year was that I didn't make it part. Dr. Whitney just talked about the routines. I didn't make it part of the routine to check the folder. So it would go weeks, like my daughter was doing her job. She was putting things in the folder in her backpack, and then I was forgetting to check it. So I missed deadlines. I missed like the class picture that I could buy because by the time I opened the folder and took everything out, it was late. So not just organizing, but make it a part of your routine to check those things. And then once the kids get older, let's say they're middle, high school, there's going to be more materials, right? So think about multiple folders, or is it buying a binder, teaching them how to use dividers for each subject? Maybe you have an area of the binder that's for worksheets that need to get done, and then the ones that need to be turned in for those kids that get them lost, as I mentioned. And then I know as kids get older, and we have high school here, but they may be starting as soon as middle or even elementary, is there's a lot of digital folders. So not only do they have to organize their papers like we used to, but there are digital files that they need help organizing. And so that goes back to what we talked about with connection. You may have to connect with the school to figure out what are the apps the kids are using, how do they work, how can I support as a parent.
All right, well, let's hear from you. Please post in the chat if you have any organizational tips that you use at home that you find helpful. Again, we are crowdsourcing here. We want to share ideas with each other because it is really difficult. We got our high schooler last year for Christmas a cork board because she just could not keep track of all of the assignments and things. And that gave her a place to put upcoming dates and little notes to herself and reminders. And she does seem to like the cork board, but she doesn't keep up with it all the time. So we definitely, I'm hoping some of you will have some brilliant organizational tips that we can all use. Oh, hooks in the hallway for backpacks and lunchboxes. That is a pro move, Nicole. I appreciate that very much. Having the one place. Oh, gel pens. See, that's clever too. That sometimes if you give a kid a cool implement, writing implement, physical planners. Okay, yeah.
Emily's getting ahead of us. I love it.
Yes.
It's,
Oh, yes. All the afternoon, after school activities, they keep it in a Google Calendar. That is a good idea. And posting things on the fridge, Maria, appreciate that. Oh, they're pouring in now. Look at all these. A dry erase board. Do like that. Yes. And a shoe organizer and using it for like hair bows and socks and all those things to help with getting dressed. That's clever.
oh, love that.
I like that idea. And putting daily outfits together before they go to bed. Dr. Whitney shared that professional tip with me, and I really love that. It's brilliant. Yes, that really helps, I think. Yes, picking out clothes. Yeah. Yes.
I can sense that we all live the same life as parents of getting kids dressed in the morning is something else.
The clothes and clearly the calendar thing. We are all trying to track so many different dates and times and events. Yes, that's what we need help with that, especially. Well, I love these great ideas. Dr. Ariana, I know that goal setting is next, and that's a topic that you have a lot of passion around. How does goal setting help kids have academic success?
Yeah, I keep saying this is the most important one. They're all important. But with goal setting, what we could call it here really is breaking assignments down, right? Kids often freeze when they're overwhelmed. And honestly, adults do too. We procrastinate those big things that we need to get done because it's just so overwhelming. And so the tool that we can teach kids now that will help them into adulthood is to break those big assignments down into those smaller daily steps. And sometimes they even need like daily steps. What am I doing day by day to get this done? And so not only does it help it feel less overwhelming and I know what to do, but it's also helping them track progress, which is really important for keeping kids motivated. So to give you an example, if a child has to read 100 pages in the next 10 days, then you tell them, okay, that is 10 pages a day. All of a sudden, oh my gosh, I have to read 100 pages. No, you just have to read 10 pages today. And that feels more doable. And then when they get it done, they feel good. They're motivated to try it again tomorrow. And so we have a download to help you with this idea of breaking the goals down into the smaller steps. And then you see here, there's more like who's going to help me, the organization, my schedule, study spot, stress plan. So an idea here is, let's say a child has a book report. Well, the 3 steps they need is to read the book, and then you choose a very specific date, right? Then you write the outline, and then you write the paper. And some kids, depending on their stress level, may need to break each of these down further, right? I gave the book example of like, well, reading a book itself can still be really stressful. So I'm going to break that down further.
That's really great. I feel motivated to help my daughter set some school goals for this year, and maybe that will help us with procrastination. But it's still really hard to get kids to work on assignments that they just don't want to. What are some strategies that can help us with kids who are avoiding assignments, Dr. Whitney?
One thing I think everyone can use, no matter what their age, is setting timers. I mean, even younger kids can set timers. Even I know there's timers on microwaves and tablets. But one way to use a tablet, or not a tablet, one way to use a timer is by having it as a part of the routine, which is what we talked about before. So, for instance, it might be that we set 10 minutes to be the time that we do homework or studying, and that it's just part of the routine that we set this timer, and for those 10 minutes, that's what they're going to be working on. And for younger kids, we know keeping things in short blocks, like 10 or 15 minutes, it feels more manageable. And then maybe encourage them to take a stretch break, do something else for maybe 5 minutes, and then have them set the timer again and get back to their break. But then I think as kids get older, their study breaks and blocks may get longer. So we might think about them studying for 20 to 40 minutes and then taking a longer break of maybe 10 minutes. But I encourage even teens to set timers and take breaks, because we all need time to focus, but then time where we need to be off and give our brains a break. Another thing that we can do is to check the calendar or our homework planner, whatever your family decides to use.
I really appreciate that because those last minute, oh, I have this group project that's due tomorrow and we all have to work on it tonight, that why do those never come up before 8 p.m. and then it's like lots of chaos? Is this something that you feel like can really help with that?
Yes. We have in your toolkit a handout that I think will really help. This weekly school planner is great because it helps children learn how to track those big assignments. So they write what their assignment is, when it's due, and then the status of it. So, like, are they currently working on it? Have they turned it in? But the weekly school planner really helps to break things down so they can work on it each day. And then I think it's important for us to think about our kids and the different ages and the supports they need. So for younger kids, you might have to fill out the planner and help them for several weeks get into a routine of breaking them down into steps. But they definitely could also benefit from having like a calendar on the wall. As for tweens or teens, they might work on a planner on their own. But if that is a new concept for them, they might need you to help them track it for a little bit. They can also try to use these new digital apps out there, which can sometimes be really helpful for tracking assignments. Um, And then I think that it's important that you have your child either post the calendar or you check it, because we really want to avoid those surprise moments, like Diane mentioned. And so you reduce those surprise moments when you're making sure to look at the calendar or making sure to look at the planner to make sure, hey, especially during busier times, that they're getting the help they need and that they're able to do the assignments in a fashion where it's not rushed. And so we really want to make sure that they remember to also take breaks. Uh, we can really be focused on, studying and doing our homework, which is really important, but breaks allow for them to recharge and to return to their work at a high level and to try to focus.
Love that. Breaks definitely have helped my daughter, but I do have to have her set a timer for the breaks. Otherwise, her breaks tend to stretch out into longer and longer times until it's all breaks and no study or homework time. So appreciate these ideas, and I'm going to definitely try some of these at home. So our last topic is study skills and reinforcement, and I'm excited to learn about this one because I've definitely lived through several kids who just hate studying and they put it off, and then the night or two before the test, it's suddenly a catastrophe and it's so stressful. So what can we do about that, Dr. Ariana?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty normal. I think most of us don't enjoy it, right? And with kids, they're still learning how. And so we have to help them figure it out as the adults. And so one of the things we can do is putting pen to paper. And this is becoming increasingly more important to talk to kids about because everything is digital. They have tablets, they have computers. And so we know research shows that actually physically writing things down helps us memorize it. And so each child will learn differently. And as they grow, that will change. So you have to work with them. Is it an outline? Is it flashcards? Is it rewriting notes? Is it practicing that math problem over and over? It's repetition may be helpful, but really encourage them to use that pen and paper. The other thing to think about is ask them to teach you the material. This is another thing that we know research shows that it helps people learn. If you are in charge of teaching it to someone, it helps you really understand the concepts in a deeper level and memorize it better. And then we've mentioned this. We're going to mention it again because, again, we are living in a digital world where kids are distracted by their devices. And so when we talk about the quiet space for studying, I'm talking about maybe there's no personal device near you while you are studying and doing your homework because we know that it will be very distracting and hard to focus.
Yeah. You've mentioned before it's really important for caregivers to be encouraging, and that is definitely not something that is my strong suit. So can you give me some steps that I could take, Dr. Whitney?
And you can start off small, but it is really important to know that kids crave praise and attention. So we really have to notice. And we have to make sure that praise isn't just tied only to achievements, but consider rewards for goals that they have set or for following the before or after school routine. You might have a reward chart where you can track to help prevent conflict. But we want to just really notice and acknowledge any improvements we're seeing. So, for instance, if a coach or another parent or teacher says something nice about your child, we really want to make sure that we share those comments with the child because praise reinforces them doing those behaviors and things that you like again.
All right. I definitely think I could try some of those ideas. What about if I've tried these skills with my child and they're still struggling with school? What should I do then?
Yeah, I mean, as you said in the beginning, Diane, these tips that we're talking about, these strategies, are may not be the only thing a child needs because each kid learns differently and some may require various supports, different supports. So if that's the case, we really do recommend reaching out to the teacher, the school counselor, working as a team with your child. And so again, we have that worksheet with the connecting to the school. You can pull that out. What is the phone number? It asks questions like what's your preferred method of me reaching out? And that way you can talk about your concerns and see how you can work together to help your child.
Great. Well, we have covered a lot of information. We would love to hear from you. So we've got our next poll question. Which one of these skills do you feel like you will try first at home? Routines, organization, setting school goals, time management, or study skills and reinforcement? We'd love to hear from you if you'll take a moment. I think I'm going to work on organization and time management in my house. I'm excited to see what everybody else said.
I want to get a family calendar after reading this chat and color coordinate it.
It is great advice. Okay, wow, we've got like a three-way tie, it looks like. So routines, setting school goals, and time management. All right, that's wonderful. Well, we do want to go ahead and let you ask some questions. So you should see a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You can submit questions. Again, Dr. Ariana and Dr. Whitney aren't going to give specific advice, but can give general recommendations. And while we may not get to all of your questions, we're certainly going to try our best. All right, so I see a question about what if the school year has already started? Is it too late to use these ideas?
No, it is not too late. I think the hardest one, if school has already started, is you probably just jumped right into that sleep schedule. And so you may have grumpier kids, their sleep is off. But no, it's never too late to check in and have the conversations with kids and see how they're feeling and getting them back into the routine, practicing things. So don't feel like you're behind. You can still apply all of these.
Great. Oh, I see. This question is close to my heart. I have a child who hates math, willing to do other schoolwork, but just does not want to do the math homework. Do you guys have any suggestions for that?
Sure. So one, I think, and I'll see what Dr. Ariana says too, is I think talking a little bit about what makes math really hard for them, and then also coming up with things that maybe they can get rewarded for trying the hard things. So sometimes it's like, if we do math first, then we can get rewarded by doing all the other assignments, or maybe we do math last, but we know that once we get a certain number of questions done, then we might get a sticker if they're younger, or we might get additional screen time or a way to just make this hard thing for them easier.
Hmm.
Agree. I love that you highlighted why is it that they don't like math. I would want to know that. Is it, do we have a larger worry? And should we be talking to the school about supports, or is it more something we can handle at home, like you said, Whitney, getting them excited and using reinforcement?
Oh, I see an excellent question from Nicole that I know that you will have thoughts on. My child has high anxiety and I have a hard time getting him to school a lot of days. Are there ideas to help now before school starts? This is a fourth grader.
Yeah, this is pretty common. Last year for back to school season, we talked all about something called school avoidance. So these are those kids that are feeling like, I don't want to go to school. They don't have a generalized anxiety disorder. They don't have a clinical concern. It's just something is happening at school that's keeping them from wanting to go. And so the first step is what Dr. Whitney just said, check in, figure out why is it they're feeling nervous. Is it the socializing? Is it the academics? What is it that's scary about going to school? And that way you can problem solve with them how to get them there. A big thing I want to tell anyone listening is when it comes to school avoidance and feeling nerves about going to school, sometimes as parents, we want to protect kids from those uncomfortable emotions. We want to keep them home because they're feeling so anxious and nervous. But we know that that actually will cause the anxiety to grow. And then you can turn what's the school avoidance into a clinical anxiety. And so, what we really encourage is we want kids to do that thing they're afraid of with a lot of support. We're not just pushing them, ignoring them. We're validating, we're understanding, we're problem solving, we're teaching them coping skills. So it will be vary by child. You can work with the school. They're used to this kind of thing with kids. But I definitely want to encourage, the goal is to get the kid into the building.
And the only thing I would add is that because school hasn't started yet, sometimes starting those practices of walking to school or talking through the process of going can be really helpful before you go back to.
Great. Chelsea asked about getting back to sleep routines, and that has been really challenging because sometimes sports practices go late, kids are falling asleep in the car. Are there any tips that they should follow with that, or also with kids that refuse to sleep in their own room, that they want to sleep in their parents' room. So do you have any thoughts or feedback for that?
Well, I was going to say, well, those are several different challenges with bedtime. We have lots of resources on our website for sleep, so we can definitely share some of those. But I would say we really, if possible, don't want kids to take naps, especially after they've gotten out of that toddler preschool age, because we know that those will disrupt sleep. So, when they're in the car, thinking of ways to keep them engaged and up can be really, really helpful. And then trying to stick with the same bedtime and wake up time as close as possible within an hour, I think can be really helpful. And so, yes, we know things come up, but that is traditionally the expectation, and our brains really love when we do that. And so I think it's important to kind of think about how can we, even if they have practice or things like that, how can we try to get home and establish routines so that they can continue to go to bed around the same time every time.
Mm.
As for staying in your own bed, I think that a reward chart can be one of the best ways for that. Like thinking of like a sticker chart or something like that can also be helpful. But I also throw it over to Dr. Ariana to see if she has any additional information.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing in the chat there's questions about bedtime, so I'm feeling like we need a whole webinar on sleep. It's obviously it's so hard. Sleep is one of those things that kids push back on, they avoid. As Chelsea's mentioning, after school schedules can make it really hard to keep routines. And, you're getting home at 9 p.m., you still have homework to do, you still have dinner. So it's a big question that we could talk for a long time on. I'm sharing I shared the link directly to our sleep resources. But I feel like we should have a whole hour on this based on what I'm seeing in these questions.
All right, there's still several more questions. I'm hoping I can get to at least two more if we can. One is about how do you know when to reach out to teachers with questions once kids are in, say, middle and high school? Because you want to teach your kids to ask their own questions and advocate for themselves, but how do you know when they need support doing that?
Question. Want me to jump in, Dr. Whitney?
Drop in and
Um,
on.
Yeah, I think it depends on the child, and I love that this question is highlighting the importance of, as kids get into that middle school, high school age, we want to help them be more independent, right? We want to help them do it. And I will tell you, even with my little one, my 6-year-old, I will ask her after she's told me her problem, do you want me to reach out to the teacher, or will you talk to her? So it's helping your child feel like you're on their team, you're helping them, you're not against them. And so I would say start with that. Like, how do you want to face this problem? Do you want to reach out? Do you want me to reach out? And then, of course, with parenting, there is always kind of this moment where you feel like, no, I have to step in, right? If you gave your child that opportunity and they're not handling it, there's going to be this big consequence that you're not okay with happening. Then it's okay for you to step in. But again, have the conversation. Don't do it behind their back. It's all about trust. It's all about working together. The conversation can then be, should we have the conversation together? Do you want to be there? Or can I reach out to the teacher myself?
I really, really agree with that. I also think that there are certain kids who struggle a little bit more. And so if they're starting to struggle a lot more, I think having conversations earlier with the school staff and that building a relationship with them can be really important so that as the child who we know maybe traditionally struggles, there's a relationship so they can communicate if there's some concerns happening and you can start addressing it before there's a major like concern or the child has failed a class or something like that. So sometimes I think we want to make sure the lines of communication are there. And so we want our kids obviously talking and advocating, but we also want the teachers to know who we are.
Right. All right. I, I see several great questions. I'm sorry we don't have time to get to everyone. But Carrie did ask about how do you help kids with anxiety around riding the bus, particularly for middle school, which I can imagine there's a lot more friend drama that starts up in middle school. So do you have any ideas for that?
So I would say with all things that cause anxiety, I say it's important to break it down into little steps to think about, ways in which you can conquer that fear. So one is maybe understanding what parts of riding the bus are fearful. Is it fearful that I'm going to miss the bus or I'm not going to know where to go? Or is it about where am I going to sit? So understanding what causes the anxiety and then talking through those things and developing a plan to help them know where they're going, think about where they might sit, even practicing how they might ask someone if they can sit next to them if it's not assigned seating. Like those are all things that we can do to have them just practice it. It might be walking to the bus stop as one of those steps, but the goal is to think it through so that the first day they're not just doing it for the first time and they haven't really thought about it.
Great. Thank you so much for all your questions. We really appreciate it. And we just want to recap.
Yeah, so for the back to school transition, the one that many of us find ourselves in, we talked about checking in with your child, getting back into those routines, practice, 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 even the school bus that we were just talking about, practice walking there, practice getting on the school bus if your school has that opportunity. Get organized, discuss expectations ahead of time, connect with your child's school, and have fun. Celebrate this transition.
And we covered skills that you can work on at home that will help your child now and during the entire school year, including routines before and after school, organization of school materials, papers, setting school goals, time management, study skills, and reinforcing their efforts. As soon as this webinar ends, you'll see a survey. We'd love to get your feedback. We're always looking to improve, and we need your thoughts in order to make things like this better in the future.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We do have a weekly newsletter, and we would love it if you would consider joining that. Then we can email you every week. And if you are a Spanish speaker, we also have a WhatsApp channel where you can get more great information. So we wish you the best of luck in this back to school season. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. And thanks, Dr. Whitney and Dr. Ariana. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks everyone for joining us.